Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dodgeball Podcast. My name is Kim, and today my guest is Kera Monroe. How you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Ah, nice,
Thanks for
wonderful
having
weather.
me.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You're definitely on my list for a while, and eventually got to you. Um, I had nice weather over here. I don't know how it is over there in New York.
It's bipolar.
Ah,
Some sunny days, where it's like a little bit nicer in terms of like temperature. Then it was raining, and then there was flurries, it was snowing. So it kind of is all over the place right now. It's a weird time. I feel like it's too late in the year now, or it's March. I don't think it should be snowing anymore.
yeah,
The rain's normal, but there's a lot of good days where it's just sunny and like 40. And it's honestly, I've come to terms with being in a colder climate, and I actually think that 50 degrees and sunny might be the perfect temperature,
yeah,
which I never thought I would ever think that, but it might be.
for sure. Yeah, sometimes I see like people's stories of like it's snowing in New York right now. I'm like, it's crazy because it is
Yeah.
like 80 degrees over here in Texas. So
Yeah, I know. And coming from LA, people are like, it's 90. And I'm like, that's absolutely insane. So
yeah, I'm sure nothing beats California weather.
that's true.
But my first question for you is, how was traveling to and from kickoff? That was your last tournament, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Kickoff's now easy for me to travel to, being on the East Coast, being here in New York. It's very short. It's very um, simple, which is nice. Quick hour and a half flight. I drove back with like Justin and Jackie and Nikki from like mid-season last year. And while it's also not that far to drive, 8 hours, I'm not really a car person, so I'd much rather fly. But it
Yeah,
was pretty easy. But it was cool.
awesome. I mean, that sounds like a great group to have in a car for 8 hours at least.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. And I had to work throughout it or part of it, and so it was kind of nice.
Oh, rough.
Yeah.
And how was the tournament overall for you?
It was good. It was a little different in terms of like our mixed team. We went with mixed berries again. But some of our players were missing because of Sin City this year. So it was a little bit different in that sense. And then we had Outsiders Women's again. That was good. But yeah, like overall, I love their tournaments. I think that they're ran really well. They're packed with playtime because the rounds are longer and they have six, round robin games for everybody, plus bracket matches. Like I like their tournaments a lot. I think they have a lot to offer, and I love playing against the people in Canada too. So it was
Yeah,
good.
sure. I love that tournament. First time
Yeah.
in Canada. I'm glad that was my one and only tournament in Canada.
Yeah.
You didn't want to go to Arizona and play cloth?
I did go to Arizona.
Oh, you
I
did?
was there.
Oh,
Yeah, but only because I have family there. So
oh, okay.
I'll put that out there with a little asterisk that I wasn't there for cloth. I was there to see people in dodgeball and hang out with my family.
Nice. That's
And then
awesome.
just kind of ended up playing a day because people needed people. So
Okay. So technically, kickoff wasn't your last tournament.
technically not, but I mean, in terms of foam, which is really what I count, my last tournament, we're gonna kind of skip Arizona.
Kara does not count cloth as a ball type anymore. um, but kind of like a more serious question. Actually, not yet. But like, can you talk about Worlds in Austria last year? How was that experience for you? Or 2 years ago now?
Yeah. Um, Worlds it was awesome. Like I'll never be able to describe like how I felt when I went to the opening ceremony when we got there. Obviously, Austria was my first Worlds, and I'm sure people who had been before, like, this feeling doesn't isn't as significant, as their first time. But there were so many emotions to it. I couldn't fathom the fact, not just because I was there, but like how many people come out and like travel for this tournament to compete against so many other people, and how talented so many people are in the world at this sport that we like to play. So, and how passionate they are, about playing in the sport. So it was cool. And then, of course, like the jersey trading other than like the playing on court against all the competitive players. You know what I mean? Like just the whole experience, immersing yourself in it is like something that I can't even describe. Like it's so cool.
Yeah. Was that your first time traveling to like Europe area?
Yeah, it's actually my first international, like outside of Canada, Mexico, the States, like first long trip, and it was fun. It was I've always wanted to go to Europe. I had never really like known anything about Austria specifically, so I thought that was cool. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome first trip for sure out of the continent.
Did you fly by yourself or were you with a group of
I
friends?
I did fly by myself. I was in LA at the time, but I didn't coordinate with other people flying from LA. I also didn't have a ton of like time off, so like I like did a direct flight there and back, and it was like I got in like the day before we needed to get there and left the day after the tournament, like 10 a.m. the next morning or something from Vienna. So I
Yeah.
had to like leave Christchurch, or excuse me, I'm thinking about New Zealand. Um, why am I forgetting what this little town was in Austria? Not Vienna. Where were we? Graz.
Graz, yeah.
Graz. I had to leave Graz at like 5 or 6 a.m. on the train. So it was like I just got there, got back, but it was great.
You weren't anxious at all? Because I was
Oh,
extremely anxious.
I was so anxious. But and the worst part, I can't imagine both long trips now, even New Zealand. How do the airplanes on 12 to 17-hour flights not have Wi-Fi? It's
I don't know.
just crazy to me. Like that's a thing. So like, yeah, I got on the plane and they're like, yeah, there's no Wi-Fi. And I'm like, I'm gonna die because I don't sleep on planes. I don't really sleep in beds very well. So I was like, this is gonna be tough, but it was fine. I got there. And I had a
Awesome.
middle seat open and it was really easy. So
Oh,
it was
that's
fine.
the best. That
Yeah.
is the best. Um, and then how was it like the tournament experience?
Yeah. The tournament itself was great. I of course I was number 7 of the women. So at Worlds, the rule WDBF rules is that you can only have 6 players playing in a game at a time, which means that, or excuse me, a match at a time. So if you have 7, one of your players can't play that entire match. Like you have to choose right then and there, like who that player is, and you
Mhm.
can't like I'm sure maybe if like injury wise, you may be able to like move them in and somebody can't, but like for the most part, you choose. And so I knew that going in, obviously, as the 7th player and the last player added. So like there were some limitations for everybody in that sense, like somebody was gonna have to sit out. So that was like kind of like made it a difference in terms of like playing time. But I played um I think 2.5 games in round robin. So, and they're longer matches too. So it was great. Again, competition, like everybody's mentality is just different there. Like it's not completely different from what we're used to in the States or Canada or like these different tournaments, but the passion is just like people are there to compete. Like, yes, they're there to have fun, but like there's just a different level that they're playing at, which is cool.
Yeah, I agree. The passion at Worlds is insane.
Yeah.
Like how you're talking about like the opening ceremony. That was amazing to witness for the first time.
Yeah.
But kind of talk about you're a late addition to the team, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. So after Combine, I think it was in March of that year, they announced the teams in like early April, I think, and I didn't make it. And I honestly wasn't like, I of course have hoped and like did as best as I could to try and make it, of course, but I wasn't necessarily like surprised. First of all, first year trying out, like, it wasn't, uh, I didn't have the expectation of making it. And it would just be great if I did. But I just took it as, it's not my time yet. And I just have to keep playing, keep showing, keep doing what I need to do to like make it next time. And my anticipation was next time was the next cycle, right?
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I would make this cycle. I just assumed this opportunity has passed. No biggie. Like just keep going to all the tournaments you can, keep playing, keep getting better. And it was at the practice, they offered people to come and practice, like to go to practice and still compete with everybody, even if you weren't on the team. And I was like, heck yeah, like I'm gonna go play with everybody and play with people who are going to Worlds to get better. And it was there that like some players were talking to me about like what would you do if they asked you? And I was like, I mean, if they gave me the opportunity, like I would of course say yes, like I would do it. Like there's no question in that. And I was like, but again, like my thought is I'm not expecting anything. I'm here because this is a chance and one more chance to get exposure and to play with everybody. And then yeah, like a couple weeks later after the practice, Jeremy and Kelly reached out to me and offered me to join. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, it's like a month away. And I'm like, I don't care. I was like, I'll figure it out. No problem. Like, I'll go. Like, I can figure out the time off. I can figure out the money. Like, it doesn't matter.
That's
Like,
crazy.
thanks for the opportunity. I'm coming.
That's awesome. Hopefully those flight prices weren't really bad.
It actually wasn't that bad. I was expecting a lot worse. It was like, I want to say I paid like 1350, 1400, which
That's not bad.
yeah, but it was like direct
Yeah.
and direct both ways. I guess it was going to Vienna. So like technically not direct because I don't think anything was direct really to go to Graz. But point is a couple hours away on a train, like and I got to explore Vienna the first day I got there. So
Nice.
um it wasn't as bad as I anticipated. Because I heard, people paying like 2 grand and I was like, I would still do it, but that was gonna be hard. But I didn't. I paid like 12, 1300 or something like that. And it
Yeah,
was fine.
that would hurt for
Yeah.
sure. But when they talk to you about getting added onto the team, especially being so late, did they talk to you about like playtime as well, like being that seventh?
Yeah. Yeah, no, they were very upfront about expectations again, and also like even just not being a late added player, like the whole seventh player situation, like I knew going in that like it'd be in my mind ridiculous for one of the other six players who had made it already and me getting added later to ever take away like playing time from those players. So the fact that I was already getting the opportunity, and I think it partially had to do with like Ray was a an alternate right between women's and mixed, so that kind of gave like a little bit of leeway and opportunity for me to be able to get some playtime in without taking away a bunch of playtime for another player because she could be playing women's and then I could like play right more time. So I totally knew up front like that what the expectation of playtime and how that looked for the team and for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And kind of a question relates to this, but any advice for players that are upset or down that they didn't make the team or practice squad? Because you kind of
Yeah.
definitely relate to
Um,
this.
yeah, no, I definitely. First I want to say like your feelings are totally valid and understandable. Anybody that is going out for the team and doesn't make it, like your feelings of being disappointed or, you know, questioning why or anything like that are all valid and they are reasonable and it makes sense. If you are passionate and you care and you feel like you've put in a lot of effort, that's like going to be a natural reaction. And it is super hard to hear when you're not chosen mentally. Like I was there. Um, and I would just tell people like, you can't give up because if you give up, you'll never know if you're going to make it and you'll never have a chance to make it because you've given up. And I truly do believe like that's why I made it. Other than like, I know I have talent, I know I can play. Um, I truly think that the majority of the reason that they added me last minute to Worlds that year instead of just waiting for me to make it another year and give me an opportunity then was because I just kept showing up. I kept going to the tournaments. I kept showing that like I wanted to play, I wanted to get better. And I think that gave me the opportunity to be able to go and have that experience. So I just think like for anybody who doesn't make either this cycle or whatever cycle they're going for, like just keep working at it because eventually like it's gonna come to what you want it to be.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess like don't give up because you can get asked a month before Worlds. So
Yeah, and maybe that's not feasible for you, but the point is like it will be even if you couldn't do it for some reason, if you got added last minute, don't be upset by that. Know that like your dedication worked so hard to like give you that opportunity, and even if it still can't work for you, can't afford it, can't take time off, I don't know what it is, like because I could have been in that situation, you should take that as like wow, like look at the accomplishment you made. Like in a small amount of time, it probably would be in that situation. Like you showed that like you're deserving of a spot. Like even if it doesn't work out, like you made it, you got that opportunity. So
that's an
yeah.
amazing story, especially now that you're a lock for mixed for this
And
next
knock on
cycle.
wood, don't say that. I'm just kidding. Never a
Uh,
lock, never a lock. You always have to put in the work. You always have to put in the time.
sure. But what did you start playing dodgeball?
Yeah. I started playing in 2019, right before COVID, essentially. I started playing when I moved to LA, which is interesting because I lived in Southwest Washington, across from Portland, Oregon, and they have dodgeball there. I learned that afterwards, but I never had heard about it there. And the only reason I think I figured out playing um, dodgeball is because I had this app, or I didn't have it, but I downloaded this app called Meetup when I first moved to LA because I didn't know anybody. I
Yeah.
was new to the area, I didn't have friends. And it's like an app where you can like put in your interests and like find activities near you. And the first activity I found was open gym dodgeball that was free in Burbank in the LA area. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go to that. I was like, that sounds like a lot of fun. And then that's where I started playing and been playing ever since. So cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, starting in 2019, you're relatively still really new to the sport. Because I'm gonna
Yeah.
assume you didn't start playing competitive right away, right? Yeah.
No. I mean, I played leagues and I did like I think one competitive tournament in 2019 because um I was dating somebody in the community and they already were in like competitive. So like I got exposed to it pretty quickly because of that. But like I wasn't traveling regularly and I definitely wasn't traveling like to different states. I only like did local, like a local tournament.
Yeah.
So yeah, no. And then COVID hit and that
Yeah.
sucked. And yes, there was like things here and there that we could play between like 2020 and 2022. But like my heavy actual traveling was in 2023, started in 2023.
Gosh, that's crazy. The
Hmm.
years COVID took away from us.
I know. And it seems like it was forever ago, but it really wasn't actually all that long ago.
Yeah. Like it's not so far away, but it actually is kind of a little bit far away at the same time if you think about it. But
Yeah, like the end of 2022, like the end of COVID 2022 era, not as far. Beginning though,
oh, so
further, but
rough. Yeah.
like it's crazy time, all that time that was missed. And it feels like it was like blank. Nothing
Yeah, just a
happened.
blur. And we're just at home doing nothing.
Yeah.
But how did you know you were hooked on dodgeball?
I definitely knew I was hooked from that open gym. I know that sounds crazy, but I think the reason is, and I'm sure a lot of people who are really into sports and playing sports can understand this as an adult, is that you can continue playing sports as an adult, right? Like flag football, softball, baseball, soccer, whatever it is. Like there's going to be an adult, recreational sport out there to join. But I felt like, I played softball growing up and even if you could join, leagues to play softball, it just wasn't the same in competition, right? Like, yes, there were plenty of people there that were competitive and like to still play competitively, but I just didn't see like a growth aspect of like being able to really play at a high competitive level. And so when I went to the open gym, I one just thought it was a lot of fun, but two, I was like, oh, this is another sport I could play consistently. And some people take it seriously. And then when I really learned that like you could travel for it and like how many people were passionate about being competitive in it, that's when I was like, oh yeah, like I want this because I love playing sports competitively. Like I was like, this is right up my alley that I could be doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And um I just knew that there were what I call like my day ones, which are like the protect your neck boys, because they're all from like the LA area, a lot of them, and they like introduced me and like first got me into dodgeball like competitively in terms of like the leagues. They
Mm.
invited me to a league after that open gym to play on their team in Echo Park, and we won. And it was my first season ever. And I was
Nice.
like, I have to play this. Like, for sure, I have to keep playing this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And now it's completely engulfed your life.
Yeah. And now I spend all my money on it and I can't take it back.
Yeah. And where do you play now, and how often do you get to play?
Yeah. So now like I moved to New York City. I'm in Queens, but I'm between two communities out here. I'm between like the city dodgeball, kind of like in Manhattan. And then I'm between Long Island. So where, like Dylan and Nikki and Gio and Jackie and all of them have been playing. And then the city, like Tenny is out there and Katie and some of the Empire girls. So I mainly play out here on in Long Island with them, LA kick, and practice out there. Typically, if league is happening for LA kick that I started playing in, or we do a practice, it's normally 2 days a week. Depending on like the availability of like people running practice, it could just be the 1 day a week for league. But when in those situations, I've been actually driving up to Boston periodically for like their open gyms, and they do practice sometimes, also on Sundays. So I go up there. So like I normally keep it to 2 times a week at least playing somewhere in the area, and then um, my own individual kind of practice as well. But like actual league and practice with people 2 days essentially.
Nice. How far is Boston from where you are?
It's like a 3.5 hour drive.
Oof.
It's not close.
Yeah.
Um, they just started a open gym and maybe it's going into league now, but they started something in Connecticut,
Mm.
which is only like a little less than 2 hours from me, hour and 45. The problem is I haven't gone yet because it's on Fridays at 7 and I work till 6. And with traffic, it's actually 3 hours because I'm in New York and on a Friday, heading out of town where everybody probably wants to live for cost reasons. So I haven't made that work yet. I'd have to like ask to get off early at 4. Even though I'm remote, I still have to actually be online. So that's what sucks. But I'm trying to make it work because that would be well, actually, if it's going to take me almost 3 hours because of traffic, it's almost the same as going to Boston on a Sunday. But I could have another day,
Yeah.
have another day. And it would only be an hour and a half, hour 45 driving back because it'd be at 10 p.m. at night. So
Nice.
we'll see.
Yeah. Shout out Connecticut Dodgeball.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good that they started that up. I know a lot of people are going to it too. So I love that community is growing.
Awesome. And how is the big difference between like living in New York now comparative to when you lived in California?
Yeah. In terms of like dodgeball, so I would say like size wise, I never really thought about it because LA has had less foam than like no sting, for example, whereas like here in New York, it's definitely heavily foam and or now like adding cloth, but like no sting, not a ball type really. So in LA, I always kind of thought like there wasn't a lot of opportunity in days that was foam, or at least half foam, half no
That you're freezing.
Sundays. Out Loud Sports started a league for foam, and I was like, dang. I was like, all right, I kind of left at the wrong time, maybe, but not really. It's been nice because like they do really focus on foam out here, especially on Long Island. So that's been really nice. And in terms of like difference, I would just say that the community and the people are different. And I think that's just natural LA versus New York, like how people are. And I think it's fun to get to like know different how people are and like how they interact. So that's been cool. And I'm really excited for Beast Coast because I qualified to be on the team this year. And we don't have something like that, on the West Coast in terms of like all the different East Coast communities out here playing against each other. So I think it'd be fun to actually get to like play competitively with this community out here against other communities out here.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Definitely jealous that East Coast is a thing and Texas is not East Coast.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, it's just unique, because a lot of your club teams, like some of them are, in the same area, but most of them, were split up, were from different places. So it's kind
Yeah,
of cool, like to get a community together and actually compete as that community.
yeah,
So
definitely
yeah.
a little bit more camaraderie there.
Yeah.
And then talk about your little dodgeball community.
Yeah. So, Long Island Dodgeball again is like kind of primarily where I've played. Um, it's I how do I describe it in terms of when I got out here, I wasn't sure exactly. Like I talked to Dylan and I talked to Nikki and Gio periodically at tournaments like about Long Island and Jackie, and they were kind of describing like the makeup of like who's out here, right? Like you've got those players that I've named examples, like obviously that are consistently traveling and competitive. And then you do have like a number of people out here where you could definitely tell like a lot of them maybe want to travel more frequently and maybe they just haven't like gotten to that step yet. So I think there's a lot of like opportunity for out here to really get more people with a lot of talent and you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyhow, that could make a big difference in the community, adding even more people, especially on the women's side, which I know we need. That could really help the community grow even more. And I just think it's like they've gone to like the Boston tournament, the throwdown, like a lot of them, they just haven't gone beyond that. And I think if they make that step and they do, it'd be really cool for the sport. And for them, I think they do really well. There's a lot of faces I want to see at
Awesome.
tournaments.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Do you miss your LA, California dodgeball community at all?
I do. I never realized that when I'd move because I like didn't hang out frequently with the people outside of dodgeball, like in a personal setting, I didn't realize how much I would miss them. You know what I mean? Like I guess like in my mind I thought like, oh well, there's a few, of course, like Robert Markarian and like Dan Alport who I'd see like outside of dodgeball, where I'm like I obviously heavily miss those guys. But like other people I didn't hang out a lot with outside, I never thought um, I would be like, oh, I'll be okay. Like I'll see them at tournaments, I'll still be fine. But I do, have days where I'm like, I miss seeing their faces at local leagues and like hanging out with them there and like playing with them. So like there are definitely people that I wish I didn't move away from,
Oh,
even in dodgeball that I didn't see regularly.
that's awesome. But my next question is, did you have any particular players or teams you looked up to or found inspiring starting out?
When I started out, I feel like, it's interesting. Like when I started out, I feel like I didn't have any specific players when I first started out, but it's hard because when I first started out, again, as you noticed, like I wasn't really like competitive in terms of like going to tournaments and stuff. So I guess like the person I was in a relationship with at that time, I guess they were sort of inspiring because they kind of got me really into it, right? And like playing like 4 or 5 times a week and like going to local tournaments and all the things. So like um uh I feel like Steven really like was probably like the first person that was like inspirational, and he was on Team Mexico um for 2019, and I went to that Worlds and like helped ref and like was there, and I thought that was cool. So like I'd say he was like the first person, but then as I actually like grew into the sport and like really started competing like 2023, 2024, especially like going into Worlds, I would say Crystal Briones. And I think she was so open and willing to always help someone improve and just being encouraging of like your abilities and like what you could do and how you could do it even better and all those things. And she would even like hold practices in her racquetball court at her apartment building for like some of us that wanted to practice independently and things like that, that it was like, you know, me and Kiara would go there, or, you know, Dan Alport, or just, you know, different people in the community. And it was really nice of her to open her time and her space to people and to always be like encouraging. So like she was a big one. And then the other one I'd say was and is Brandon Officer. And mainly when I got invited to the mixed team, they were all very welcoming, and like I love every single one of those beings with my whole heart. But Brandon Officer was something different of encouraging, and he would, you know, pull me aside and like independently talk to me about like how I was feeling and like where I was and what he would see and like how I could do something differently, or like just giving me all kinds of feedback and just being there mentally, you know, in what's a very chaotic, you know, first experience. And like especially with like the playtime aspect of it, it was great. And he's still like a big piece of my dodgeball, you know, now, and keeping me encouraged and focused and all of the things. So shout out to Brandon Officer. You're my buddy. You're my solid in this mixed foam experience. So he's great.
Yeah, I agree. Shout out Brandon. Love that guy. But can you tell me your journey leading up to your current club team?
Yeah. Journey. Okay. So for the first couple of years, 2023, 2024 overall, um, like I didn't actually have like a solid club team. The first solid club team I had was Nemesis, which Tara Pang created, and I kind of like helped her co-captain. But like I kind of was a free agent. Like I would sub regularly for like the same team, but I was never actually like a rostered player
Mhm.
for a women's or a mixed team for a long time, until Nemesis. And I really liked the experience of like building a team and like being able to grow with them and like really move into something special with people. And then, of course, like now being on Outsiders Women's and being on Mixed Berries, like I think it's fun to play with different teams, and I will still always do that whenever I go to a tournament where like my main team isn't going. But I love getting to know my players around me, and I love my teammates and the sense of belonging and connection that like I get with all of my teammates.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm super
Yeah.
glad that Outsiders Women's finally got like a solid core going, a consistent
Yeah.
team rolling out every time.
Yeah, I know. I was happy that I was invited to officially play. Like they were one of the teams where it's like I've subbed a couple of times, or maybe even a few times, where I was like knowing like I wasn't a rostered player, but I was like maybe
Yeah,
someday I'll be an outsiders player.
that's awesome. So you technically didn't really have like a actual club team other than Nemesis until
hmm
Outsiders.
Yeah, and Nemesis, you know, Nemesis was a lot of like a lot of players that we never played together before either. So it's like I feel like outsiders, at least, like, you know, you've got the fam that's been playing together for a long time. That's helpful, you know, in a core to like have solid people that have already played together. When you're creating a brand new team with a bunch of players who haven't played together, it can be a lot more difficult to like keep it sticking, right? Because you're still learning each other and like do your play styles go together and all of these different factors. But it was such a good experience with the girls on Nemesis. And though we decided not to continue Nemesis, like they're big pieces of why like I'm a player I am now. You know, they're very helpful and encouraging, all of them. And I miss them all the time, but
Oh,
I wish them the best in all of their teams too.
that's amazing. Yeah, super excited for Outsiders Women's after, especially after I saw the roster announcement for the year, and I feel like you guys had a really good
Ooh.
year, and you guys got the invitation to the thing, so that's amazing.
I know. Oh my God. I literally was like, we have to make the thing, guys. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't say that we're going to, but we're going to. And
Yeah.
then we did. And I was like, you know what? You put something out there, you can have it.
Mm. Yeah, so you guys were the first name on the wait list to get added in. I was like, there's gotta be at least women's team that's gonna
As
drop,
I
right?
was saying, somebody's going to do it for us. Somebody's going to give it to us. I don't know who it is, but we're going.
Yeah. I was trying to tell Aurora and Kathy, like, you should bribe someone to drop so you guys get in.
I think even Kathy, when she found out we made it, she's like, I didn't have to bribe anybody.
Awesome. Uh, but can you share any memorable moments or experiences from your dodgeball journey so far?
Memorable moments or experiences. I think outside of course, like Austria Worlds, New Zealand API was really cool, and Mexico City for the North American tournament. Like obviously those are heavily focused, and those were incredible experiences, and I loved all of them, and they're very dear to my heart. I feel like there's like been experiences where they were monumental in like dodgeball, and I think I really enjoyed them. And like my first one that like comes to mind is actually like playing with Brick Squad at kickoff in 2024. I feel like because 2024 it was Worlds year, and that's when I made it, and that's when I was really heavily like focusing on like trying to make Worlds and like just being as competitive as I can and doing the best I can. Brick Squad's obviously a fantastic team. We all know that. And getting the opportunity to play with all of those, fantastic players, like the experience was just so eye-opening of like how much I could still grow and how I do even better. So and then we won, of course, too. So I think that was my first mixed win.
Nice.
And that was at least that I can remember. I'm sorry, anybody else, if I've played mixed with you and we won and I'm not remembering it. I'm just gonna put that out there. But it was like just like all the whole experience, first time in Canada, playing against those players, and it was just a great experience. And then the other ones would be like playing with mixed berries at the tournaments. Obviously, the tournaments we won were obviously incredible, but just like in general, like playing on mixed berries, it's obviously for anybody who doesn't know fully, like it's made up of players who were on the mixed foam team, and just continuing like the bond with all those players is just moments and experiences like I'll never forget, and like I love doing and playing them with them.
Yeah, I love that Mixed Berries is a team and how you guys continue to build that chemistry off of just being Team USA.
Yeah, the main thing about mixed berries that like our goal, it's really just important to us that like the goal in mind is like going to worlds, right? Like pick and even like subs and stuff, like you didn't have to have been at worlds. And look, like we have Erin, she didn't go to worlds, right? Like, but the purpose is like that's your goal, and that's where you're striving to go. Is anybody we're gonna pick up is like that's where you're planning to be, and like you're going for that. And so of course, like the bond between those of us that did go to Worlds is like fantastic, but we're also wanting people like who are trying to make Worlds and that's their goal,
Mhm.
also giving them the opportunities to play because that's gonna, catapult where they're gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a great team. And such a great team too. Like you guys are winning and doing really well at tournaments too.
Yeah,
Um,
I love them. I love them so much. Can't even say it enough times.
Also, such a great name. Really sticks with y'all.
Yeah, do you know the background of mixed berries?
I assume it's the Team USA mix in Austria with the fruit salad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, so it started with at practice. Right? It was practice or no, it was definitely practice. Um, we asked like people's favorite fruits, and somebody, I apologize to whoever it was who brought them, but they bought glasses, and some were pineapples and some were watermelon. It was half and half, and like whatever one you got, you were like on that team. We played some sort of game or something that divided the teams. But the point was is like came up to do with fruits. And then, yeah, it just was like a spinoff of like how we could incorporate fruits in our cheers, like mixed berries, yummy, yummy when you catch, or like just different things. And so that's where mixed berries came from. It was from this trickle of jokes related to fruit from practice into worlds. So
An inside joke.
yeah, it's an inside joke, and it's okay with us that if people don't know what it's about.
Oh, that's cute. Any specific milestones or goals you would like to achieve before you hang it up?
Um, well, the main one, the biggest one is, of course, to win gold at
Yeah.
Worlds. That's definitely a milestone or goal. Um, but outside of that, I also want to win a gold with Outsiders Women's. That would be fantastic. I see that in our future this year. So that's a definitely big goal. And then some personal like milestones or goals. I'm trying to work on like I want to consistently be able to hit a throw speed of 60 miles an hour and higher. I can do it periodically, but mainly I float in between like and depending on ball type, like bottom balls, I can't throw fast. Like I can throw a joy light faster for one reason or another. But like with a joy light ball specifically, like I still float between like 58, 59, like consistent. So I want to be more at the like 60 and up. So that's like something I'm working on personally. And then I also want to be better at rushing. And when I say better, I mean get there quicker and pass the ball quicker. So activate the balls quicker. And like the goal is kind of like a little over the 2-second mark, which, they were testing at API, like how fast the balls were getting activated. And like the activation speeds were like ranging between like 2.04 to like 2.2, I think was kind of like the range that I remember. So I'm like, I want to keep up with the boys is like my goal. So I want to be in that range at some point.
Nice. Those are awesome goals. I guess you can see it. You would kind of touch yourself at in Minnesota if Mitch is doing the Rye Rush time or whatever they do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, whenever you're on the stream, so maybe you can do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they were doing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So whenever you're on stream, you're really gonna push yourself.
Yeah. Well, now all this anxiety I just got. But no, I was kidding.
um, if you could go back in time when you first started playing, what would you tell yourself, like advice or stuff to look out for?
I would say probably like to not focus on things that you can't control and try and look at the things you can control, because there's, things are going to come up. There's going to always be things that like are something you can't change or can't fix, but like I'm not going to be able to throw as fast as some people, right? Ever in life. Like there's just going to be sometimes you can't, right? Or there's so many talented catchers, or there's all these things, like not focusing on like what I can't do or can't change, but focusing on like, okay, with what I have, the skills I have, what can I do to be better myself and like to make more of an impact based on those things. So I'd probably say that.
I mean, that's a great answer. I have not heard that one yet. Um, any opinions on the current state of USA dodgeball?
Oh, I do love that they changed the format in terms of tournaments and like divide, like just separating ball types and each tournament being a specific ball type. Um, while I understand like it does reduce the travel, like how many places you can go to, or like maybe like the tournaments where they do foam instead of, cloth or vice versa, or no sting, like you don't love the place. Like I do think it's nice because the playtime to me and like the tournament being run is probably going to be more efficient and like better. And two, while I'm probably not the best example because I'll probably travel to all of them if they have foam, even if I shouldn't for cost and or, time reasons. It does help, like, in my opinion, like where if it's only cloth and I don't want to go, I don't get like a FOMO or like have to stretch because like I'm worried about missing out on a ball type I want to play. So like I can really like focus on like, okay, I'm gonna put all my resources here to be able to go to this, but I can skip out on, these rounds because I don't need to go there. So I like that. One thing, strong opinion I have, which I don't think like is really big, but I think should be considered is like that we use baden balls. I get it in terms of cost. I get it in terms of the partnership, like totally get like the vision and where it's going. But especially in like a world's year, like practicing on baden balls and then moving to Joylight for worlds and like practices and all these things, like people should be able to switch back and forth, and I can and others will and all these things. But like I think maybe on world's years, considering like even at USA tournaments, especially scouted ones, using Joylight for those and using baden on the other ones where maybe it's an off world year or like not around worlds stuff. Just my like personal opinion on the ball, and hopefully, maybe baden kind of switches them up and maybe they get closer to Joylight, but it's just weird sometimes switching between them. Like I feel I think it's more a personal thing, is like I feel insecure. I'm like, I suck at throwing this ball and I love a Joylight ball and I can't wait when I go to throw a Joylight.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between a bottom ball and joy ball. And I
Yeah.
mean, that's a really cool take, having like do the off year, switching off and on with the ball types. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's all the questions I have. Now we're gonna go into the
Okay.
crowdsource questions. Thank you to everyone that's sending questions. I really appreciate it. We're gonna start with the Instagram crowdsource questions. You had a couple anonymous questions. There's gonna be 4 anonymous.
Okay.
First anonymous question is, what is your dream Dead by Daylight crew?
Dream Dead by Daylight crew. That's funny. For anybody who doesn't know what Dead by Daylight is, it's a multiplayer game, online, 4 survivors, 1 killer. If anybody's ever played Friday the 13th game, it's kind of like that. A little bit more intricate, like more killers you can go against, more things, perks that you have as a player. But essentially, it's a horror game, and you're trying to survive and before the killer kills you or sacrifices you to the entity. But Dream Dead by Daylight crew. It's hard because like I feel like it's such a small group of us that I know that actually play. Like I would say like one player I definitely want on my team that nobody knows because they don't play dodgeball, but I met them online through Charlie Dang, who is in dodgeball and plays, is a guy named Dustin from LA, who I happen to live really close to when I moved there. He's awesome at Dead by Daylight, so I definitely want him. And then in terms of like dodgeball players, I mean, my main crew is like Charlie, Pierce, Ben, Bo, and I mean, we had to pull teeth, I think, to get Bo to play most of the time. But and maybe even Charlie sometimes, except for late night. But I think like Bo's our gen jockey. Like he's just gonna do gens and like he's not worried if he's hurt. He's just like gonna just do work and like not worried if the killer's kind of like tunneling him or anything. So I feel like Bo has to be on it just because like I can always count that he's just gonna be doing something. Pierce and Ben are a toss up because one of them's probably messing around, hiding in a locker, laughing their ass off. But I'll take either of them too. And then, Charlie's also solid in terms of like, he's always doing something, but he's always quiet. He's never on chat. So, Charlie, get in chat more often. And then maybe I'll for sure pick you all the time. But yeah. So, like, there's not a lot of us. And everybody else who's out there, DeMonte, you always say you're going to play, and I haven't seen you on yet. Sid, need to play with you. Anybody else who plays Dead by Daylight, tell me. Ashley Elder, I know you haven't played. I told you about it. Maybe try and play with us. So Maybe I'll change my roster up of who's my dream Dead by Daylight crew.
Second anonymous question. What do you do for a living?
What do I do for a living? My job is hard to describe. I work in a small team, so like I wear a lot of hats. So like my title is kind of like I don't really know what my title is to be honest, but I work for a small independent wealth management firm. So essentially, investments and financial planning is what we do. I'm not a financial planner, but I essentially manage the team. I do client servicing and I track any money movement in client accounts or for the office, things like that. So like kind of broad of what I do, but I work in a wealth management firm. I work in the financial industry. So that's what I do.
Third anonymous question. How do you afford traveling to dodgeball tournaments?
The golden question. How do we do this? How do we pay all this money? I mean, I'm very frugal when it comes to anything but travel. So like I just limit what I spend my money on outside of dodgeball travel and things like that. So like monthly, expenses like where I live and I don't have a lot of subscriptions, for example, like Netflix and all that stuff. I kind of limit. And then for like food, like I always split my meals in half and I'm very in terms of like how much food I get, things like that. So like I'm kind of like really frugal in like my personal like day to day. And then that way it gives me more money to like splurge on when I go travel. And I also don't drink like socially or like I do sometimes at like tournaments, but like I don't drink regularly. Drink costs $16. I'm like, oh my God, that's why I have money because I don't spend all that.
Yeah. I'm sure it helps that you work for a financial type
Yeah.
job as well. So I'm sure you get some experience in that.
Yeah.
Just beware. I don't know if it's me or you, but you keep freezing on my end. Yeah.
No. It's mine. It keeps saying my not
Network is
keeps, but
unstable.
I've seen it a couple times that it says my internet's unstable. So I'm not sure,
No.
but hopefully it fixes itself.
I mean,
I
so far
maybe
it's been
could
good.
okay, yeah. I've seen it a couple times. So and I saw that time you froze for a second. I was like, oh, hopefully you heard anything I said.
Yeah. You like freeze for like maybe like 1 or 2 seconds and then it would be like catch up. So
Okay. Sorry about that.
no, you're good. I was like, I'm hoping it's not me.
No, it's definitely me. It says your connect. I saw it pop up on my screen that says your connection's unstable. It's like, eek, bad time.
And then the last anonymous question is, who is your dodgeball crush?
Dodgeball crush. Okay. That's funny. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go. I think I'm actually gonna go a route that I'm sure this person maybe isn't hoping for, but
Yeah.
sorry, not sorry in advance. But so I'm gonna say non-romantic. My dodgeball crush, I would say, is Cynthia Lee, who's was on the women's team for 2024 for Canada. I don't know. Like, I think she's so cool, just like herself, and just like as a dodgeball player, and she's so talented. And yeah, I aspire to be her for sure. So
For
shout out Cynthia, you're my dodgeball crush for sure.
Yeah, I told the person that sent this question, I was like, I hope you know that you're never gonna really get a serious question. I don't think anyone's gonna out their crush like that. But
Yeah, unless they're really like, I'm trying to let you know, and here I'm going to do it on this podcast. But yeah,
that
but
would be
yeah.
crazy. um, Next question is from Tenny Tenerilli. I didn't know that was actually your name.
Yeah.
Uh,
Penny. I love Penny.
Tenny goes, Kara is the best. My question for her, you've been
Hmm.
moving around a bit recently. Love that you're in New York City. How has recent moves impacted your dodgeball training, and how much do you factor that into your moves?
Mm, good question. yeah, I'm definitely happy to be out here in New York City. Tenny was so sweet. He took me out for my birthday. We both have February birthdays, but yeah, he took me out for my birthday. It was so sweet of him. And we went somewhere in Manhattan. I haven't been allowed a lot to the city, so that was cool. But it definitely has been a shift for sure. Moving out here, um, being at that, like, because I'm, like I said, in between two communities, I do have to travel a little bit more to get to one, either the city or Long Island for, practices or league. So that's been different in terms of like coming from LA where, I traveled 15 minutes, to get to the gym. And I also had a car. I don't have a car out here. So that's been definitely a big kind of shift. But overall, I still think like I'm able to train, go to practices, similar, maybe slightly less, but mostly the same as like what I was in LA. And uh, I definitely did factor in community and like moving here and how that would be moving to New York City. And I definitely chose New York City with in mind, like knowing the players out that were out here and like knowing their level of competitive and what they're looking for and what the community is looking for. So like I definitely kept that in mind and like am not at all upset by choosing to move out here. I'm glad I did. It's fun.
So you kind of had a choice of where you wanted to move.
Yeah, I could go. I was the biggest thing was I wanted to try out East Coast. That was like on my list, but the biggest factor was that I knew if I moved as definitely as far away as possible, I never had to go back into the office, and I knew they
Nice.
weren't going to fire me. And so here I am. Now I'm remote and on the East Coast.
What a
So
great.
yeah, I definitely had a choice. And I chose New York City because of community, people, and just like it's New York City. Like who doesn't want to try New York City? Like
Yeah.
you had to try it.
Yeah. What was some other options that you had in mind besides New York?
Mm,
Or was it just solely you were going to go to New York?
no, it wasn't solely New York. Like I considered Boston. I love a lot of the people in Boston as well, close to. I think that was definitely up there. I just didn't know a lot. I mean, technically I didn't know a lot about New York City either, but again, New York City, like, you hear a lot about it. Like I didn't know a lot about Boston. So like it wasn't just like a driving factor the same way. Um, I considered other East Coast cities, but to be honest, and I love the Philly people, but like I didn't have good experience in Philly. Like just the city itself like wasn't big, and I think I had like a terrible experience at the airport twice that I was in Philly. And so like I have this weird notion of like Philly is like not my place, but I'm still considering it. Like if I move around the East Coast, like I might try out Philly and hopefully get a different feel for how I currently have it in my head about Philly. But I love a lot of people there too. So yeah, so that's why I chose New York, but it's still I could go anywhere. So like it's still on like, maybe I'll try out one of these other cities. So
Did you ever go back to LA?
don't get me wrong, I love LA. Like I miss it. Like when I went back there, I went there for a work trip 2 months ago. I had like crazy nostalgia. I'm like, oh my God, I miss this place. Like I love the sunshine and I love driving around the streets and whatever. But the problem is like I don't have like other than the dodgeball community, I guess I don't have anybody out here either technically in terms of family. But I would only move back because of the dodgeball community, like and the sunshine. Like just loving that area. But like I don't have family, in LA. So like I'm not settled anywhere because I don't want to live in Phoenix. That's where my family is and
Mm.
love all you Phoenix folks and the community there, but I just can't go to Phoenix. Like I was born there and all my family's been there and I've gone there a lot. I just can't live there. So I don't know. Like maybe one day I'll go back to LA. There's nothing like that would pull me there. Like in terms of family or anything. So just depends if I ever want to spend the money to go back all the way
Yeah.
West Coast and when that is.
Especially because you have to go into the office.
That's the other thing is like maybe if I change jobs, because if I go back to LA, I'm gonna have to go back into the office, and I can't do that.
Yeah. Awesome. Next question is from Pierce McKenna.
Okay.
What's the best part about playing with ADC, Atlanta Dodgeball Club, when you played with us, and what's been your favorite memory?
Yeah, my previous team, I feel bad because so like mixed berries became, a team, and again the goal was people going for worlds, mixed foam, and so ADC was my mixed team that I regularly played with before that. And now that I'm saying this, I'm realizing that I guess technically ADC I was a rostered player. So now I take back everything I said about having a rostered team. I did have that in 2024 for a mixed team. Love you guys, ADC. Apparently, I've a terrible teammate because I choose to move to mixed berries. Anyway, best part about playing with ADC. I think my favorite part about playing with ADC has been like was the growth with the players because many of us were newer to the sport, including myself, and were like coming up in the sport. And I feel like so many of us grew during the time that we played and just overall and playing in tournaments that it was cool to see like where we started playing with each other and then like towards the end of like when we were playing with each other, especially like when I was on the team before I went to mixed berries, like how different it was, like growing with each other, growing independently. So I think that was like my favorite part about playing with ADC.
Nice.
And then favorite memory. Um that's hard. I mean Atlanta was cool because a lot of the people obviously are there because they're ADC. That was fun for sure, getting to like hang out with everybody out there in their local area. But also, honestly, like one of the best experiences I had was playing with them recently for a tournament where, mixed berries didn't go, which was FDC.
Mm.
Our team was kind of different. Like some of the main ADC guys weren't there, but I just had a good time. Like it was just a fun experience. Like we were just having a good time. Like, from what I recall, like we lost to outsiders, I think you guys, but like I think overall we played well, like in the tournament. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the inflatable like stuff that you guys brought out.
Yeah.
That was funny.
There's such a laugh. I love it. That's like the thing is like it's just a good time. Like you're not gonna like have a bad time. It's gonna be a laugh. It's gonna be great.
Next question is from Brittany Morales. Can you explain why you prefer mixed over women's and play styles that may take someone more preferred for mixed versus women's slash open?
Brittany, yes. Yeah, so okay. I do prefer playing mixed over women's. I've always said that. And it wasn't until recently that I realized that the biggest reason I probably have always preferred mixed over women's is because I actually lack confidence in women's. I didn't really think about that like I always just thought like the general reasons were like the main ones, like the pace is different, right? And it's just like a little bit faster. And like I feel like female identifying non-binary players in mix can like it's cool to make a big game impact like when you can, right? Because you're playing against male identifying, team members where they're like, playing fast and they throw so hard and all these things, right? But I realized that I think it's more than that. I think it's like I had this lack of confidence playing in women's for one reason or another. I don't know if it was just like I was in my own head about it or what, but I felt like I just didn't succeed the same way in women's as I did in mixed. Like I felt like when I was in women's, like I wasn't like the strongest catcher. Like I could only do it when I had to. And I threw a lot, right? Like, and they like a little bit more reserved and like just like the strategy is different, right? Like it's not like just throw, throw, throw. Like it's thinking about like why are you throwing and how is it going to impact your team and all these things, right? So I like women's more definitely than I used to because I finally decided that I can play women's and I just need to not be in my head about playing women's and like, you know, look at the strategy of it more. And so, yeah, I will say like I do like it more than I used to, but I do still prefer playing mixed. I do like overall like the flow of the game and the strategy and things like that, but also like I think it's just like a personal preference and feeling of like satisfaction from a female, like being a female succeeding with men on the court. I know that sounds probably ridiculous, but like there is something that's nice about like when you can close out or make a big game impact against players that just naturally physically can have, better chances over you. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
And the next question is from Junior
Gutierrez?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent this to me. That's why I know that.
Awesome. What truly inspired you to get into the competitive side of dodgeball?
Inspired me to get into competitive dodgeball. I feel like I think I mentioned this earlier in the pod, but I'm definitely always been a competitive person, just naturally, and I've always been in competitive sports. Um, like the sports I played growing up, like softball, hasn't been like I said in the beginning, consistent enough, like to be able to play competitively. And so again, I think coming into dodgeball and realizing that you can play it very competitively and like regularly and at like a level. I think that's what got me inspired to the competitive side of dodgeball is that I'm already naturally competitive and like to play sports. And because I couldn't find that somewhere else, like, and it's a throwing sport, which is what I grew up doing. I was like, this is like a win-win. Like I get to throw like I normally do, and I get to play competitively regularly. So yeah, I think that's when I discovered that like I'm inspired to do this.
Nice. Next question is from Simon Harrison. What was the best part about API?
API. Hi, Simon. Okay, it's kind of tough because I had such a great time at API. I think the best part, I feel like a lot of people probably say this, but it is true. Like, is that I had a great time playing against so many different players that I don't get to experience. Like even Canada, who I mentioned, like I like to go there because it's like different than our USA, but I do get to see them, a couple times a year, sometimes more if they come to our tournaments. But like API was so many people that like I'd never played with before or even against, like, that maybe they didn't play at Worlds, right? So and there's so many talented players, like just the level of competition that went to API and just how many talented people there are. It was so cool to be able to go there and see that. Um, and the other thing is like the finals, like, and I could say this like about Dodgeball Toronto and like kickoff and midseason, like the finals are also fantastic, but API's final, like every single one of those finals was like a blast to watch. Like it was just so intense and so everybody was so into it and like you know putting their all into the game, and even like the crowd like itself was just all in. So I don't know, the finals was incredible. Like I didn't play in the finals, but I like shagged it or watched it or whatever, and it was awesome. So I'd say those were my favorite parts. And then shout out to Simon and everybody who ran API. It was incredible, fantastic. Ran so well, and everybody was so welcoming and friendly too, and just like there to help and be supportive and make sure you were having a good time.
Yeah, shout out Simon.
Yeah.
So far, it sounds like API has been such a great tournament. Should have been in Japan instead of Melbourne, but whatever.
Yeah. Please put it there someday.
Yeah. Next question is from Aaron Greenlee. Ask a couple questions. First question.
Oh my God, I love Aaron.
First question, Kera, you have been a role model and an inspiration for me throughout this past year on our women's and mixed teams. The hard work and dedication you put into the sport is apparent in every play. Do you get nervous for being a role model for newer women? And what's one piece of advice for someone looking up to your game?
Aw. Okay. Yeah. I definitely naturally do have nerves about people looking up to me and being someone that could be influential to somebody else. Like I think that I'm naturally an anxious person, but like just there's a lot of, you know, weight on you kind of sometimes it might feel like when you're in that situation. So it definitely can be overwhelming. For the reason of feeling like I always need to perform well or, make sure that those who are looking up to me are like proud, I guess, of like what I'm doing. But overall, like I'm glad that people feel comfortable like coming to me and asking me how they can improve and what to do to continue to get better. Like I have noticed like I've gotten people like messaging me randomly sometimes like, can you just like give me honest feedback? Like, what have you seen from me as like a player? What can I do? Or like, people who are trying out for Worlds are like, what did you do? How did you make it? Like, can you give me any feedback? Like what they look for and all these things. And I love that people feel comfortable to be able to do that. And I want everybody to know like 1000% ask me, because like it's not me versus you. It's where, who makes it. Like I want you to make it. Like I don't care like if spots or whatever, like I want you to do everything you can do to make this team, like anybody who's out there. So I would say the biggest piece of advice for somebody looking to elevate their game and like get better is, I think what makes a difference in players is strategy. Like you can do, all of the training you want in terms of like throwing and catching and dodging and all those things. And of course, those are all going to make a difference. But I think what sets people apart is really like strategy, like focusing on the plays and executing them, studying situations that you might find yourself in and how to handle those situations, whether that's with team or by yourself or what have you. Right. So I always encourage people to like evaluate like what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and everybody knows what they are for themselves. And then thinking about how those impact their decisions in those situations on court. Like if you know you're not the strongest catcher, but you know you're really good at surviving, how can you manipulate that game into going in your favor, knowing that you're not going to maybe clutch catch, but like you could seek out a situation where you can like take somebody in a vulnerable situation, right? So like those kinds of things I think are what I mainly want people, and what I'm trying people to focus on is like, look at the bigger picture, look at like this whole strategy, and like less about like, what do I have to do in this very second, and what can I do overall to get me to my goal of like winning this match or this matchup. It doesn't matter.
Nice. That's beautiful advice. Second question from Aaron. Some
Okay.
people look at mix as an inferior mode of play. As someone who has become a mixed powerhouse, what's your pitch to tell everyone how women can change the mixed game?
Thanks, Aaron. I really like this question. Because it kind of gives you like that, like kind of like people like me, like who prefer mixed over women's, for example, like thinking about like that people may think of mixed as like an inferior mode of play. I like that kind of perspective and thinking about that. So I guess it's something I have heard before is that people think like male identifying players do a lot of the work in mixed. Like that's been like something that's like been tossed around, not like frequently, but like I've heard it before, which is maybe likely a reason why people say like maybe it's an inferior mode of play. But I think that people don't always realize that in mixed, the male players do get picked out first, right? Like the male players are going for the male players. Like they're ignoring the women for the most part in almost all situations. And so what that creates is that when people are getting targeted first, the male identifying players are getting targeted first. That means that pretty quickly on each side, a female player is going to end up being a primary ball holder, right? So like you now are an impactful piece of the game right up front, because if one person gets out on each side, you now have a female ball holder. If you're keeping ball control and keeping a 3-on-3, ball defense. So in my opinion, the best way for a female identifying or non-binary player to really make the best impact in a mixed game is to use the fact that the men aren't really focusing on them and are kind of ignoring them, because still, while you have male players on the court, they're still going to ignore you. They're still going to have their priorities set typically on the male players. And therefore, when you become that, especially female ball holder, is looking at those situations where how can I take advantage of this player who's clearly going to try and target my other player and how can I take them either with them, or in best case scenario, my player lives and their player dies, right? So that's like the biggest impact that women need to look at in mixed, is like, when you present the opportunity of making a game changing play, right? Which can be as simple as even just taking out one priority target on the other side. How can you get those out? And those usually happen in transition plays of like, you just ran an offensive and they're running a defensive, and now they're coming at your player and they're going to throw, right? Take them either before they can take yours or as they're taking yours, whatever it is. And if they trade for you, typically even better, right? Like, not downplaying the ladies because we're fantastic, but like technically in terms of like what the mentality is in mix, like if you trade with a priority target on their side who's typically a male player, like you trade it up, like almost in every situation. Like, and you should be proud of that. Like, if you got them to look at you and you traded them, like that's a win. So that's what I would say, like, is the biggest thing is like looking at how you can identify those opportunities and take them, because that's what's going to change the game. Because it's not the men who really end up being the difference makers, it's the women and what they do that really like switch the game for mixed.
Yeah, definitely agree with that last part you said. And I think it's crazy that people actually think that mix is inferior. I think mix is harder than both open and women's, in my opinion. I think mix is the
Yeah,
hardest.
I've never heard it. That's why I liked the question. I was like, wow, I never really thought of it like, or that people had that, potential thought
Yeah,
for
for sure.
mixed. I mean, but I think I'm also like pro mixed, so like
Yeah.
maybe I kind of ignore anybody who's like no to mixed, but it's a cool perspective to think about.
Yeah. And then the third question from Aaron. I love you, Millie. What's the best chai latte you've ever had?
I love chai. I love that she asked about chai. Best chai. Okay, so first of all, top chai, don't care. uh, Opinions, because it will always be my favorite. Best iced chai is Pete's Coffee by far. And it's because it's like it's strong and it is spiced chai, which is what I prefer instead of like a sweet chai. It still, of course, like is sweet and has like sweetening to it, but it's super spicy. And it sucks because there's no Pete's Coffee here in New York, and I hate it, except for in the JFK airport. So when I fly out of JFK, I can have one, and when I travel. But that's definitely been the best iced chai. Best hot chai is not from a place. It was made by a dodgeballer's wife in LA. His name is Omi. He's really only a rec player, but his wife makes the best hot chai ever. And sad I don't have it anymore, but shout out to her. It was the best chai.
Maybe that'll be the reason why you moved back to LA.
Yeah. Omi, please. I need that chai. She's so sweet too. I love her. She's great.
All right. Now switching over to Facebook questions. First one is from Dustin Harwood. He asked a couple questions.
Okay.
First one is, what are some of the skills you had to hone to be able to compete on the world stage?
Okay. Skills I had to hone to be able to compete on the world stage. So again, I played mixed foam, and again, like in my experience in the games I played at Worlds, again, those things that I said to Aaron's question, like that's what I had to focus on, is again, like identifying opportunities of how I, as a decent thrower, but not obviously the strongest thrower and or the strongest catcher, all those things, like I had to think about all the strategic situations of like, how can I overcome these situations where I'm at a disadvantage. And so the skills really came down to like IQ and like strategy, and then timing. Like I'd say timing is so underestimated. Like you could have the most powerful throw, you could like be great at dodging all these things, but if your like timing sucks, like it's not going to matter. Like you could, like if somebody's prepared for something, they could dodge it, they could catch it, all these things. So Like I have like a specific situation at Worlds where like it was a 1v5 and it was me and I was like, and it's no blocking. So I'm like, great. I'm not like, I can only catch it if I have to. Like all these things ran through my head that it's like, I can't block. I was like, I'm gonna die. Like I'm going to die. And I had to think in on the spot, like, okay, how am I gonna get out of this? Like, what is the strategy here? And I just like piece by piece was like, okay, like this is their strongest thrower. I'm gonna like try and take him on a counter and like these are their weaker throwers. I'm gonna try and look like, can I catch one? Like those are the types of things that like the skills that I think are really important to be able to make a difference in competing at the worlds.
And you, in the end, won that 1v5, right?
I did win that. It was crazy.
Yeah.
It's it's still surreal. Like Lucas came up to me after, and I kind of black out when I play, to be honest. Like I don't really always remember what the hell happened. I kind of just am like doing as I'm in the moment. And he's like, how did you, he's like, what was going through your mind? And I was like, well, if I think about it, this is what was going through my mind. But in that moment, all I was thinking was like piece by piece, like I need you out, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do. Okay, now I'm gonna look at this. So it was hard. But
That's
we
awesome.
did. We did win. I got 2 catches, crazy enough.
Nice.
And I downplay that I'm a good catcher because I really don't feel like I am. There's the Paige Petersons and Sam Grecos of the world that like are fantastic catchers that I'm like, I'm not a great catcher. I was like, but I can do it if I have to.
Yeah. Awesome. Second question from Dustin is, how do you feel the women's game has evolved over the last 5 years, and where do you see that meta going in the future?
Hmm. Women's game. So as I talk about like catching, right? Like I feel like again, part of my confidence lacking in women's is that like in my mind, I conceived that like women's was like way more heavily focused on like passive play. And that's not necessarily what it was, but like it just like there were moments of women's that I felt like were heavily focused on like the backline catches and like kind of waiting and like anticipating and all those things instead of like a lot of the aways and like doing the motions. And I think that it is evolving where women are getting a lot stronger and being able to throw and do these other things that like are more commonly like seen in like open play, for example, or even mixed. That I think that when he's talking about like where you see the meta going in the future in terms of like women's game evolving, I do think that like, you know, looking at like Canada, who plays like that, who's very not like passive. Like, yes, they of course do their catching and all that stuff, but they're really like on top of like the rushing and like the getting of throws in and like being aggressive and offensive. I think that's kind of like where we're moving and where it'll go, you know, um, has evolved over the 5 years and like it was going in the next five, you know, and beyond years. So I think as other teams, including the US, like kind of move towards that, I think is when we get to that like Canada women's kind of area where they've kind of shown from 2024.
Yeah, I agree. The pace is definitely gonna be much faster.
Yeah.
Third question from Dustin. What do you think the women's foam squads need to do to capture or compete for gold at Worlds this year?
I guess kind of like that. Kind of moving into that, kind of going off of that question and that answer is that I think they shouldn't get rid of what, you know, what they have. Like they have talented players who can do a lot of things. They can throw, they can catch, they can do all the things. And they should absolutely not get rid of any of that. But if they can change kind of like the strategy moving into that meta of like being a little bit faster, looking at those transition pieces, really optimizing on the aways and things like that, I think that's what they could do to really, you know, solidify that gold is just kind of tweaking just a little bit of the structure of the game, and just implementing a few things to get there.
Agreed. And then last question from Dustin. It's going to put you on the spot. If you had to make an all-women international all-star team, who would be on it?
Oh my God. All women international all-star team. Jesus. Okay, I'm gonna do 6 because yeah. Um Cynthia Lee. Sorry, my dodgeball crush is going to be number one on this list. Let me think. I think her name's Caroline. She was at API. She played on the kitty team. I don't remember what it was called at this moment, but they were in the finals, right? Or maybe they, anyway, she's a beast. And her game face is crazy. Like I would honestly, like I always look scared when I play, and I can tell because I get photos that way. I would be scared. Like looking at her, I'm like, my terrified face would be all over that court. Um, and then I would say, uh, excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought. On Reckless, she was on the women's foam team. I'm losing my train of thought of her name. Tall, blonde.
Oh, Croftley, Craftley,
Yeah,
Croftley.
something like, goodness, I'm sorry to this player,
Yeah,
but Kenley
yeah,
Croft.
yeah.
I think she's great. And then like I don't know, she can do a lot of things that I just don't understand how she does it. Um, and then I would say Shauna Rowe. I love Shauna. I think she's so talented. Um, I would say actually, um, her last name is Smith. She played on Australia in at API, but she was also on Australia's team. Charlotte, I think is her first name. I watched her at API and like both in mixed and women's, and she's talented. I like her a lot. What am I at? Four, five? How many did I
I think
not
you're at
name?
5 now.
Okay. And then last but not least, um, I would say, I mean, she plays mixed, but I just think she's such a talented player is JC Morris. Like she's on the mixed foam squad, and I think she's fantastic there. But like even on women's, like I played with her on Rainbow Thunder a couple of times, and there's just something about like she can catch, she, she can block, be really small, and that throw is just disgusting, and it catches everybody off guard, and I love her. So I'd say JC Morris. So yeah, that's probably my all-star team. It could maybe shift like here and there depending on like I think a lot of the Valkyrie girls, other Reckless girls, like um some of the people from API, like I don't remember her name at the moment, which is bad because we hung out a couple of times when I went to their Airbnb, but she was a crazy catcher from Australia too. They could all like shift in or be like maybe a top 10 all-star team. But yeah, so many fantastic women players.
And then
And then I chose international only, but listen, USA girls, like I've the Grecos and the Katie Sanchez's and all the world. Like if it wasn't international, like you're going on that list too.
yeah, and Frankie Giannetto, he wants to build off that question or build off Dustin's first question.
Mm.
What is the most important thing you worked on that's elevated your play?
Ah, most important thing I've worked on, definitely just kind of reiterating, like I really worked on like thinking about the game, like on a map, like what I would say Eli talks about, like micro versus macro level, like thinking about it as a whole and not just like eh. I see a lot of players like the mistakes they make is like they're looking at one thing and they've got their eyes focused on that one thing, and they're not thinking about like if I do this one thing, what's going to happen next? And it normally turns into like they make that choice and then their next choice is stuck in some way. And I don't even just mean like physically their body is stuck, like the choice beyond that is just like there's only one way this could go, and it usually is the negative, right? Like they get out, they can't do anything more, they've left themselves without a ball, whatever it is. And so the main thing I've really focused on is like looking at the game with people on the court with me, if we're up, if we're down, how many balls we have, right? Like really focusing on like my decisions from here and my team's decisions from here, how do they make this whole game play out, and how does that impact like whether we win or we lose? So That's definitely like, other than like obviously always working on myself and like my throws and my catching and whatever, like I'm always thinking about strategy. I'm watching film, I'm studying like different situations and like always looking at that.
Good question, coach. And then Frankie Gino comes back again for another question. What is the best food you've had while traveling for dodgeball?
Best food while traveling. That's hard. Well, actually, maybe it's not that hard. Frankie, I would say it might actually be that place that we went to in Toronto. I don't remember what the name of it was, but I think they had Toronto spelled wrong on their wall. Anyway, it was, I actually don't even remember which style of food it was. Was it Szechuan? Anyway, it was delicious. Some of the people couldn't eat it that went with us because it was too spicy, but I love spicy food. That place was really, really good. I really liked that place. And then, yeah, I feel like that's probably the top that I can like think off the top of my head. I've had a good number of good food places traveling, but nothing that like stands out beyond that place. So yeah, that was a good one.
Next question is from Leighton Chase Brooks. Ask a couple questions actually. First one is, what are some things you actively and consciously do to wow and consciously do to help develop new and existing players on and off the court?
Good question. So like I said, I have had like a good number of people like reaching out to me, normally like by message, but they'll ask me like, what can I do? Like, have you seen me play? Like, if you have, like, can you give me any pointers of like what I do right, what I do wrong, what can I adjust? So like that's what I do actively. Like I'm always responding to anyone who reaches out to me like that's actively asking me for feedback, either on their individual performance or like what I do. Um, and then like in terms of like developing on the court, for example, um, I don't know. I try not to be too like aggressive or pushy with players, like giving them active feedback right then and there, because some people can feel a little overwhelmed by that. Like, but if somebody's like showing like signs of like extreme frustration of like doing something wrong or like something's not going their way, like encouraging them that like it's okay and like, trying to like guide them in a direction of like, hey, try this instead. Like if you're feeling frustrated about this or like, this isn't going the way you want it to, like try and modify like the situation. And I think that's like what I do on court. Like again, I'm not trying to like if somebody throws a catch or like does these things, I'm just not the player that's going to be like, hey, like you shouldn't have done that. Like here's what you should do instead. But if people are, visually or verbally like I don't understand, like why isn't this working? You know what I mean? Like then I'll kind of give them like my 2 cents and like try and give them a little bit of feedback.
Nice. Second question. Most of us know that dodgeball can be all consuming and sometimes is jokingly called a cult. With that thought, what are things that you do to set boundaries when it comes to dodgeball, and what does that look like? Any examples?
Leighton, does that have anything to do with the fact that I'm on Outsiders now? Because we use the word cult, because I swear we're not. No, just kidding. But um, I think I don't have boundaries for dodgeball, to be honest. I feel like I probably should, but um, I I think that's bad of me, but I don't think I do, to be honest. Like dodgeball is like it is the primary thing that I do. Like I moved cross country so I could work remote so that I could travel like and be remote and not to take time off work or like all these things. So like I've literally modified like my lifestyle to be able to play as much as possible. Now I understand like, in terms of like people who can't do that and like they have families, they have jobs that they can't like do what I've done. I guess when I was in an office and like I had to set boundaries in terms of like, because I had to work or something. I guess I just like, I did what I could to like make it work to like be able to do the fun things I do while still being reasonable of like I only have so much time off, or like I can only modify my schedule so much. So I guess it just comes down to like what you're wanting to prioritize and how to do that and like focusing on like what's important to you. Like I think everybody has to kind of look at that in their own personal setting as like how important is it to me over this and like how can I make them work together.
Yeah.
So like I guess that's what I used to do.
And then a last question from Leighton. How do you exist in the world separate from dodgeball?
I mean, I do things outside of dodgeball. Not a lot, but I do. How do I exist in the world without dodgeball? I guess like I play video games like and pretty regularly, like daily or at least every other day. I do work a lot. So and it's only worse because I work remote now. So like my computer's around me all the time. So like sometimes I don't sign off, but like in my free time, like outside of dodgeball, like I do hang out with people periodically, but then I do a lot of the hanging out like online, like on voice chat and stuff and playing video games. So like I think just like other than dodgeball, which we all love and we have the hobby of like picking another hobby, picking something else that makes you happy that like because we can't always afford to do dodgeball or dodgeball's not always happening. That's how I exist outside of dodgeball. Is like I find something else that I really like to do, which is mainly video games.
Nice. Next question is from Hope Thea.
Oh.
Ask a couple questions. First one is: as someone with a reputation as a survivalist and being incredibly hard to get out, what advice would you give to individuals who want to improve on their survivability?
That's a good question. And thank you for saying I have a reputation for being a good survivalist. That's nice. I would probably say, I would probably say to focus on like basics is like tracking the ball movement, right? And I know that's simple to say and like maybe seems too basic, but like have people throw at you consistently and multiple people when possible and like really work on tracking the ball both with a ball for blocking or without one for like how to track movement for dodging. Um, I feel like some people mentally like will have somebody throw at them and they'll kind of like gauge the person and assume like they're gonna miss. Literally never rely on like me thinking somebody's gonna miss me. Like I'm always thinking like they're gonna put it on target somewhere. Like I'm either gonna have to move or I'm gonna have to block it. And so I'm always considering like what position I'm in and what that looks like for like where those people are and like where I think they're gonna throw. Obviously they could have a cool throw and maybe they don't throw there, but the point is like I'm always watching like their movement and like how in what position I'm in, whether I'm standing, squatting, preparing to jump, like how can I move based on what they're gonna do. So knowing the different ways you can survive both with a ball and without a ball, and then trying that and tracking the balls that are getting thrown at you, I think will help immensely with your survivability. And again, it takes practice and it definitely takes like thinking about it and obviously like also like not everybody does the same type of dodging like that maybe I do like pancaking and like all these things, but I think that if you can get really good at tracking a ball it will immensely help you, or even tracking not the ball itself but somebody's throw motion and like studying like where the ball goes when it is released from their hand, which is how people like Xander and Brandon Officer, like they don't do crazy dodges, but they just like sidestep. Like those things like is from them like reading and knowing like where somebody's going to throw. Those can help you with survivability.
Nice. Second question. What are the best ways, in your opinion, for female players to have a major impact while playing mixed? Or what are ways that female players can improve on their mixed play in your experience?
Yeah. So I think I sort of said this in a previous answer. But to reiterate, like again, the best way for like a female player to have a major impact while playing mixed is like thinking about the other side of the court, who is the priority target, and how you get them out in any case, in any way you can, and in any situation you can. So like if the male players are getting targeted first and you have a ball, how can you protect either that male player and or take out a priority target on the other side, to give your team the best chance of continuing to be up in players or to win that match. And if you don't have a ball, I guess we'll go a little bit into that. You can still be impactful by reading like and watching what's happening. So I think like an underestimated, like something that people don't think about as being really impactful or like think about actively is like, how many balls do you have? Like, could your player take an extra shot because you just got a ball back from the other side? Like maybe they've got a vulnerable player they could literally take on the spot. You don't have to take a set throw, right? Like those types of things. Like if you're a player that doesn't have a ball, but you're watching and studying the game, you could tell your team, like, take that shot. Like you, like we have the balls, you know what I mean? Like those types of things can really help and be impactful, even when it's not about surviving or taking any hits.
Third question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you listen to music before games to hype yourself up? And if so, what songs hype you up the most?
Music. I do love music. I don't always listen to music before, and it's because I'm not a morning person. So like I'm kind of like always late. Not late, like literally not at the gym on time, but like I'm showing up like 10 minutes before and like doing a little bit of warm up and that's it. And that's really bad of me. And I need to be better because my body's gonna hate me. Already does, but so I don't always listen to music, but when I do have time to listen to music, maybe I'm going with people who are an earlier people and I have to be there, or I'm just like in the mood. I guess my like kind of normal gym music or like is metalcore or hard rock or like punk rock, I guess is kind of like the like Breaking Benjamin, Evanescence, 3 Days Grace, Linkin Park, those like anything in that kind of realm. And I feel like people probably think that's like hate yourself music is what I feel like what I've heard people saying, and not saying it's not, but it's not like about a motivational thing. I just like it. And I think that anything people like enjoy listening to, I think can help boost your mood for whatever you're about to go into. So that's what I mostly listen to.
Nice. And the last one from Hope is any advice on how to become a lefty?
That's funny. My mom actually said when she was teaching me to write that I would try and write with my right to like copy her. And she said she could tell I wasn't a righty. So then she would switch to her left and we couldn't tell whose writing was whose, apparently. So I love being a lefty. I don't love it for day to day because there's lots of things that are against the left-handedness, but I do love it in sports. I think it's an edge that, is cool. I think I don't know how to teach somebody to be a lefty because I've tried to be a righty and it's like I've never thrown a ball before in my life when I try and throw right-handed. So, but I will say if like you can figure out how to throw left-handed, like the Eli's of the world, the Xanders, and all the people who have practiced opposite hand, Karina Mezcua, whatever, all these people, definitely do it because left-handed against, people who are right-handed people do say it's weird. Like they just don't get it.
Yeah.
So.
And you never know when you need your left hand.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we get hurt, and people will do that too.
Yeah. Next question is from Demonte Cleveland. Hey, Kera, you traveled a lot for Dodgeball. Where have been some of your favorite places for matcha and sushi?
Food again. Well, so I'm not a matcha girl. I'm a chai, but so I've actually like tried matcha. I've never really been a fan of it. I did try one place. I tried a matcha at one place, which I was surprised that I liked. It was like a sushi place, here in like in Manhattan. So that was the one and only matcha I've ever had that I liked. But sushi, crazy enough, I feel like I haven't had a lot of sushi traveling that I've liked. And even here on the East Coast, I don't know what it is. Sorry, East Coast folks. I don't feel like you have the best sushi. I don't know why. My favorite sushi is still in LA at this point, but there's been a couple of places like out here that have been pretty good. And I could tell that funny, this is Demonte's question because we had sushi in Christchurch when we were in API at this like kind of conveyor belt one, and they had limited options, but I could tell like the fish quality was really good. Like it was really good. It was just like didn't have a lot of choices, but like it was good. So I think that was like probably like the best one traveling overall. But nothing that stands out.
I'm sure you post a lot of sushi on your story,
I
and
do. I
I
love
see it every
sushi.
time, and it makes me so jealous.
Yeah, and if I'm posting about it, I enjoyed eating it. So it was good sushi. If I didn't, I'm probably not posting it. So, and I
Nice.
get sushi a lot. It's definitely my favorite food.
Mm. So you pre take a picture before you eat it, and then if it doesn't,
Yeah, my camera definitely eats first. Yeah.
nice. And then second question from Demonte: what are some changes you think we need to do as a USC dodgeball in our local leagues to bring more women and keep more women playing and growing the sport?
Mm. This is a good question. I've pondered this. And this came up like when I was playing with ADC and like just the thought of like, for a long time. And I think they have more now, but like a lot of women weren't in Atlanta, for example, and just like leagues in general, like even LA, where no boys is what we called it, or they still call it in LA, like it was hard to get like more than 4 teams, together to play in the league. And I don't really know exactly what to do. I do know that personally, I want to be involved in growing communities and women in sports in the communities. I don't know how, I don't exactly know what my role would be in that. My assumption is, advocating for, you know, bringing people in that I love the sport and like being in sports and competitive and liking it. But in terms of like what USA Dodgeball or local leagues need to do, I guess my guess would be potentially to have like maybe a division like separate where it's an existing tournament and people who are a little bit newer and maybe people even that like aren't newer but like are open to like not being in with all of the other teams like playing in a separate like division and maybe giving those people opportunity to like see like not be scared of like how many competitive teams there are, right? And like the intensity of it and kind of like draw them in. And I think that's like some of the people on Long Island, for example, like who don't travel a lot, I feel like they could really benefit from that, for example, like on the women's side. So like maybe that's an idea of like, how can we like get people to travel to something that they're local to, maybe having tournaments near big cities and then being like, hey, don't worry, like it's going to be competition, but it's not going to be scary. Like you're not going to feel overwhelmed by like being too new, if that makes sense. I don't know, maybe something like that is
Nice.
how I would say could be the start.
No, I definitely see your vision on that because I'm sure there's people that come in new gets pretty nerve wracking or scared.
Yeah, I feel like, and listen, there's some people like I brought my friend to dodgeball one time, and she likes sports, she likes working out and stuff, and she's like, I just can't play this sport. She's like, I don't just don't like. She's like, I don't like guys throwing at me. Like, I
Yeah.
just will never. And I was like, well, there's women only, and she's like, maybe I could do that. And she's like, but there's some people that just aren't gonna like it, right? There's just some people that it's not gonna be for them. But I feel like some people do get scared away or like are not really interested in pursuing it because like they're just not tied to it. Like it just doesn't feel like good for them for one reason or another. So I think that's what we could do.
Next question is from JD Feliciano. What are your favorite jersey trades anywhere, any tournament, and which teams have the best jersey design slash designer?
Yes, I love jersey trading. Oh my God, it's like my favorite thing in one of my favorite things in dodgeball. I have way too many, and I know there's people who have been playing a lot longer than me. I can't even imagine how many jerseys you guys have. Like Glenn, I think he made a
Oh
blanket
gosh.
out of old t-shirts that he had from dodgeball. Anyway, something like that. But I love this question. My favorite, and I just got it after Mexico. My favorite of all time for sure jersey so far has been Team Mexico from the North American tournament. And it's the women's, they cropped it and it's a long sleeve and it's black and yellow. It's like my all-time like ideal jersey. It's black and it's cropped and it's long sleeve. And it's like I saw it and I was like, I have to have that. Like I don't care who I get it from, but I have to have it. And I got it from the beautiful Gigi. And she's awesome. So I was like, wow, I really scored. So that's been my favorite so far. Like I think unfortunately above everything that I've ever gotten. But a good second is Team Japan. Their
Mm,
jerseys from Worlds, the really unique, cool looking ones, like that were just different.
yeah.
I got one of those from a a girl, Yukari, on Team Japan. So that was cool too.
Nice.
So those are my favorites. And then best jersey designer. I don't really know in terms of like the specific designers, but I will say that shout out to Luke Finder, who's designing these freaking cool ass jerseys. Like I'd give the credit to him because he's got some cool designs, and I've gotten multiple jersey trades from the designs he's done for people like Berserk and different teams. So I'd say probably Luke Finder.
Yeah, he's definitely killing it.
Yeah.
And then another question from GD. Do you believe there are advantages or disadvantages in righty versus lefty matchups similar to 1v1 sports like tennis and boxing?
That's a good question. Um, I do. So it's interesting because I think the position in what I find interesting is people like to play certain sides of the court. Like Brandon Officer likes left side, but he's a righty, which I find interesting because I'm a lefty and I like left side. Um, and I'm not saying like Brandon will play right and I can play right. I'm not saying you can't. I just find it interesting because to me, I've always thought the advantage was, and what it was worked for me is being left-handed on the left side. Nobody can see that I'm going to throw.
Mm-hmm.
Like they don't see my ball. So like until it's already released and like coming at them, they don't know it's there. So like I think that's an advantage for myself. And as long as I'm paying attention, even though my back is turned, as long as I'm hyper vigilant of like somebody might be throwing at me, I think I have the advantage overall because they can't see what I'm doing. So that's what I would say like for lefty or righty like positions on the court, like when somebody's on one side or the other. In terms of matchups, I think I kind of touched on this is that the majority of the world is right-handed. And so you're used to right-handed people throwing at you, just like pitching, right? Like you're used to a righty or, throwing a pitch at you. So it's the ball movement, you're used to where it's coming from. When I was a lefty softball pitcher, when I'm lefty here, like I do get a lot of feedback of like, they're like, I just don't get it. Like there's like something about when a lefty throws at you that like, because of their body positioning and where it's coming from, like it's different. And I've also heard that weirdly, like left-handed people, and I don't know, like maybe it's because like we learned from a right-handed person throw, because like our coach was probably right-handed, to be honest. Like our balls apparently have a lot of movement. A lot of people who are left-handed, like so I don't know. And I think it may be again because like we couldn't be taught like exactly right the same exact motion that like maybe we release it different. I don't know. But that's what I would say in terms of like matchups. I definitely think being left-handed, always looking at a right-handed thrower, I know how they move and what they look like. But right-handed people looking at left-handed, that's like not as common.
Yeah, y'all definitely have the advantage. And then next question is from Shota Barbo.
Shota.
He goes 1, 2, 3 family. He asked, "You've lived in a couple of dodgeball hubs in the United States now. What is something you have learned from both places and love about the communities?"
Yeah. I've learned that like LA, I feel like a lot of players there have been playing a long time. There's new players too, of course, coming up and or it's like changing from like primarily playing no sting to foam. But like the LA community was definitely like awesome for me to start in because there were so many players that were what I'd call veterans, right? Like the Crystal and Karina and Nate Kreider and Pine and all those people, right, that have been playing for years and were able to like learn from all those people. So I'd say like definitely learned from LA, did a lot of experience there. And then in terms of like New York and Long Island specifically, like they're more of like there's plenty of players that have been playing for a while, but like I'd say they're on the newer side in comparison to LA players. And it's nice. It's like cool to see like the difference in like people's talent like coming up into dodgeball and like developing and like a new meta of like play style, whereas like, what people were used to playing. So I think that's like what I'd learned and like kind of experienced in both places. So it's been cool.
Nice. Second question from Shota. What is a big thing you've learned from Worlds till now?
Ooh, yeah. So I've definitely grown a lot since Worlds. Like I feel like I grew a lot right before Worlds, between not making it and then making it and going to Worlds. But like I think it definitely have grown significantly after Worlds. And I think Worlds definitely helped to kind of like give me even a bigger perspective of like how much more I could learn and do in the sport. And so the biggest thing I've learned is like how me as one single piece on a team can be, game changing for my team. Like, how do I fit in the puzzle being one individual, not working by myself, but working with my team? And that's why I love like mixed berries and like what we've created as like for the chemistry is because now I can really see like, okay, how do they fit in? How do I fit in? How do we all work together?
And then last question from Shota. What are the differences you've seen from playing against Canadians, Americans, and people from API?
Hmm. Yeah, so I do think that there are different play styles definitely and like different habits that people have formed in different areas. Like I think it was Shota actually, or maybe I can't remember, but like talking about like different areas like in terms of like throwing sports. Like Canada technically like not like as big as the US in terms of like naturally playing throwing sports or like even Asian countries, a lot of Asian countries, for example. And so I think I find it very interesting that like in my opinion, like on an overall scale, that like a lot of the Canadian players like are great accurate throwers, like consistently, even though they're not, naturally like in throwing sports growing up. So I think that like Canada, for example, is like very well rounded. Like they've got really good for both male and female identifying players, like throwers, catchers, like rushing, and all these things. Like I feel like they're very well rounded and they're focused like overall on the game and like all the pieces. I think Americans also have that because they have the advantage of like having, the throwing sports and like habits from growing up in it. Um, but I think we have really fantastic like heavy hitters of like on all sides. Like we've got the like crazy like the Eli's of the world, like arguably best players and like high talent that like is very important for like us on a competitive level. And we've got a lot of people like those players that are bringing up a lot of our American players to like get to that level and then creating the meta of like getting to like the well-rounded part of the sport. And then I only got the one experience, of course, like so it's hard like in comparison to like Canada where I go often, but I also think they're so strategic. Like they're not relying solely on their talent, right? Like we have strong arms and we can like power through a lot of those things like here in America, for example, but like I could see like they're thinking about the big picture of the game. Like they're like I said, like Charlotte, for example, Charlotte Smith, I can see like in her mind, she's thinking like whether she's super strong at certain things, like she's literally like, okay, am I catching this? Am I throwing this person out? Am I like I can see it in their brains that they're like piece by piece, they're like doing that strategic. So I think that's kind of what I've seen. Like they've definitely got the IQ part of it down and like out there.
Nice. Next question is from Botilli.
Whoa,
He
let's pose
goes,
question.
name four dodgeballers that would survive a Dead by Daylight trial and four that would absolutely not survive.
How did I know it was not going to be serious? Um, okay. Name four dodgeballers that would survive a Dead by Daylight trial
Yeah.
and four that wouldn't,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, dodgeballers. Oh my God. That would survive. Okay, how do I narrow down of all the people in dodgeball? Okay. So essentially and be solo. Like you just can't in Dead by Daylight because like you have to save people, you got to do your thing. Oh, my internet's connection's unstable again. Sorry if I go. you
Oh,
know,
you froze it for a second.
wonky. Yeah. I would say like the first people that come to mind, like honestly, like I think Erin would
Mm,
survive a Dead by Daylight trial. I think she would be focused on making sure everybody gets out and like saving everybody. Like that's what I would imagine. Um, I feel like I feel like somebody like Eli would survive. I feel like he's so strategic that he's thinking about each like how do I, if this happens, what does this do? And like all those things. So I feel like mind wise, he would survive. Um, sorry, I'm kind of like focusing on outsiders players because it's kind of like what's front of mind right now.
yeah.
Um, uh, I feel like Kathy would survive. Feel like she'd put in the work. Like she'd be kind of like the boat. She'd just be like grinding away, like doing what she has to do and like being like the consistent.
Mhm.
Um, and then last player, let's see who else would survive. Um, I'll go outside of I think DeMonte would survive. I haven't played with him actually, but like just thinking of like personality wise, like I think he would also like be able to figure out how to survive. Now, the four people that would absolutely not survive, um, love you, bro, but I don't think Dylan would survive. I think he'd be chaotic. I think he would also potentially think that like he could survive the killer and then just end up dying and being really upset about it. Like being a little too like, I could do it. Like it's not that hard. Love you, bro, but I think that's what you would do. Um, I think Bo, I'm throwing your name in here of maybe wouldn't survive because again, like the way you actually play the game is like you're just kind of like doing all the motions, but like you're okay with just dying. You're okay with like the killer just kills you and like everybody else lives. So like you might not survive just because you like you gotta value your life, bro. Like you gotta get out. Um, other two. Who else would I think? Um, I don't know who would be like too scared. Like I can't really think of anybody who'd be too scared of playing. That's who I'm thinking of who wouldn't survive. But I don't really know anybody in Dodgeball who might be that. Maybe Aurora. Like I don't know how scared she gets of things, but like I don't know if she'd be into it enough to be like wanting to survive. I feel like she'd be like, I can't do this. Like I just don't want to do it.
Nice.
Um, and then lastly, hmm, um, maybe I'll go outside of outsiders again. Let me think. Wouldn't survive. I'll go back to my roots of like actual dodgeball players, or no, I feel like maybe they would. Goodness, I can't think of the last person. Maybe Eden. We're just gonna throw Eden in there. I don't think Eden would. I don't think she would care enough. I think she would just be like, I don't see the point.
Nice.
I'll ask Eden next time I see her if she would ever play this game.
And then Cohen Padley, he asked, "What's some advice you would give to young dodgeball players?"
Yeah. Well, first of all, I will say that I wish I started playing a lot younger than I did. And start playing super, old, but like people growing up, like Cohen and Eden, like playing young, like is only going to benefit 100% in this game. But I would say to really focus, like I said, like the sooner you can get the strategy down, you've got the time to work on all the other skills. Like they're going to come with development, right? Like, but the sooner you're really focusing on that strategy, the faster you're going to be like a player like Eli, who's making worlds at, a young age. Like you gotta be thinking like ahead of just throw ball, catch ball, block ball.
His second question: Who's 5 people you want to play with before you retire?
Ah, that's a good question. I want to play with Cynthia. I'm gonna put her again. I want to play with um again, I'm blanking on her name and I really feel bad, but sh it's gonna make me so upset. She played on uh the Petrol team with and she was in the Airbnb out there. Goodness gracious. I'm gonna reach out to you after this because I feel so bad. But I want to play with her. She was incredible. Um good catcher, good thrower, like great player. I want to play with her. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name right now. And then I want to play with five players. Okay, I'm at two.
Mhm.
Um, I want to play with Hope again. Um, I love playing with Hope. I say again, we have played together, right? You tell me after you see this, but pretty sure we have once. But definitely want to play with Hope. I played a lot against Hope and fantastic, and I want to play on the same team. I want to play with uh um um uh blanking on the name again. What the heck? Mira Duarte. I love Mira. I think she's incredible. I definitely want to play with her. And I want to play with last player. Who's the lucky last one that I really want to play with? Sorry, I probably should have thought about this before, but I couldn't review all of the questions. Probably somebody from API also. Like somebody on the right team, like Johnny. Johnny was so fun to watch. Like he was really good, and he's young. I think like he's just starting out too. Like
Yeah.
somebody like Johnny, like he was great, and I think that'd be fun. So yeah, I'd say that.
Nice. And the last question, actually two last questions. Favorite jersey and jersey you want?
Favorite jersey and jersey I want. Okay, so my favorite jersey, I said it's the Mexico one by far.
Yeah.
The jersey I want, um, I don't already have. I'll say easily, like I wanted at Worlds the I wanted the green Australia one. I got the yellow one, which I'm fine like with, and I like the yellow one, but I really wanted the green one. So like that's one I would have wanted to get for sure at Worlds that I didn't get an opportunity to get. Um, and then I want, and it's in communication that hopefully I get one, but I wanted from Mira to trade her for the Rye jersey that they did. That was kind of like the um mm, collared type look
Yeah.
that they recently did for kickoff. I think I'm still trading with her, so I want that one too. Like I thought that was cool. It's black, number one, black and silver, I think, but it's just I thought it was cool. Thought it was a cool jersey.
Awesome. That's all the crowdsourcing questions I had. Thank you to everyone
Hey.
that sent in questions. Um,
Yes, thank you, everybody. And dang, you guys had a lot of questions. It's 2 hours
yeah,
or probably
a
past two
little over
hours.
2 hours.
Jesus.
Any
Oh my God.
last remarks or shouts you want to throw out there before we call it?
Um, Shout out to everybody who has ever given me encouragement, who's ever props me up, who's ever given me feedback. And that there's like I can name a few like Shota, Eli, Dylan, like I said, Crystal, Karina, the LA folks who've like, been there and given a lot of feedback and over time, like I appreciate everybody, a Brandon officer, even people who maybe don't have more experience than me, but like who are always so supportive, like Aaron, Brittany, Demonte, anybody. Like I appreciate all of you for everything you ever given me, and I wouldn't be here without all of the support. The mixed foam coaches, Jeremy, Kelly, Frankie, just like opportunities and anything. Like it's been really big, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without all of those people.
Oh, awesome. I appreciate you hopping on. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for having me.
And
And thanks for staying up so late with me.
of course, with that, I'll call right there.
Bye. Thank you.